start the recording. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. First, we go with the Shruti, Cricket Info, if you want to ask your question, and then we move forward.
Yeah, thanks, Ibrahim. Hello, Todd. Hope you're doing well. Um, this is Shruti from ESPN Cricket Info. I think I just want to ask a question which is, very relevant. It's about the global cricket calendar and the player workloads. Are there any discussions from Cricket Australia at the ICC level to maybe streamline the international calendar to accommodate the private franchisee leagues and bilateral international commitments?
Great question. The short answer is yes. There is a lot of conversation happening at the ICC level. I'm relatively new into this role, as you know, but I attended my first ICC meeting a little while back, which was in Zimbabwe, in Harare. And one of the key conversations on that agenda was the global calendar and the challenges that we're facing between bilateral cricket, ICC World Cup events, and the globalisation of the T20 leagues. So the answer is yes, there's lots of conversations. Trying to find a balance between those things is really quite difficult. And we've got to try to find a balance between commercialising the sport and also ensuring that our players have the required workloads and opportunities to play where they need to play and want to play. So it's an ongoing piece of work and a lot of details going into it.
Thank you, Todd.
Thanks. Purnima, you want to go next? Purnima, if you can hear us, you can go next. Otherwise, Niharika, you can ask your question from IAN. Niharika, you can go. Yeah.
Okay, so hi Todd, hope you're doing well. I really want to ask you about this home summer, like 2025, 2026. Both India men's and the women's cricket teams are coming over to Australia. So, what has been the planning on the Cricket Australia perspective in terms of marketing these two big teams coming to Australia, considering that you guys had a lot of great success in the Border Gavaskar Trophy series in terms of fan engagement, crowds coming into the stadiums?
Yeah, I'm glad you've asked me that question because, as you rightfully point out, it's a massive summer of cricket, highlighted by both the Indian women's and men's teams. Also, the Ashes is here, and for the first time in nearly 2 decades, Australian cricket will be playing international matches in every single capital city and territory across the entire country, which is amazing when you think about the logistical exercise that goes with that. But to answer the question, look, there's a lot of work in bespoke marketing plans for every game in every city. Some of those will be nuanced to local markets, whether we're playing, in far north Queensland when South Africa are here, or in our big cities when both India men's and women's are here. So a lot of work going into that. I think we saw real momentum last year on the back of the Border Gavaskar series. Some record-breaking numbers on ticket sales, and I anticipate that we'll see a number of sellouts across the summer, really starting in August, going through till March. So this may be a summer like we've never seen before with the amount of content. And if you think about the quality of the players that will be coming, particularly from India, this might be the last time that we get to see Virat Kohli or Rohit Sharma play in our country. And if that is the case, who knows, it might not be. But if it is, we want to make sure we give them a great send-off and a reflection of the incredible contribution they've made to international cricket.
Thanks. Sriram, Veera, if you want to ask the question, you can go.
I just wanted to ask the importance, even during the COVID time, importance of the India tour to Australia was stressed by Cricket Australia officials, how there's lots of things going on, not bankruptcy, but the economics was dire and how important role it played. This was in COVID when even no attendance was there. Then, of course, last year, once again, was a bumper hit. So how big is India tour for now, this year when they come? Or is it like now we are pretty well off? Yeah, you guys can come and have fun and go. What's the situation in terms of in that economy impact?
Yeah, look, it's another good question. There's no doubt that during the importance of India playing here during a COVID was a significant part of our financial system. And, with the billions of people in India, it brings scale and global significance to touring events when they come here. And that's evidenced by the crowds, it's evidenced by the ratings, and it's evidenced by the imagination that it captures both here and abroad. So India are a very important partner. And I get a sense that, and it was before my time, but, those efforts through COVID create relationships between our two countries, between the leadership of our countries, to make sure that we are playing each other regularly, both here and abroad. When our team tours India, we know the numbers in their broadcast markets are enormous as well. So they're a very important partner of ours, a very important relationship, and someone who I'm looking forward to working with closely. But, having the opportunity to have their men's and women's teams out here this summer, I think is a great boost for Australian cricket and something I think our fans will really enjoy.
Last time, just one more question, Ibrahim. The last time, this is last year when we came, earlier this year rather, I was bemused, taken aback actually by the kind of promotional material pre-series that revolved around India and the Indian players, be it Virat Kohli. There was a leaflet taken by the news agencies in Punjabi, in Hindi, the whole stuff, which generally doesn't happen, or generally you don't expect from Australia at least, to focus so much on the opposition. So you were there at that time when the decision was taken. But now looking back, even you were surprised that, not surprised, not the word, how tough a decision to go, let's go promote India, because of enough audience, of course, but still for that decision for an opposing organization to go and take, okay, let's forget the egos here. This is the market. These are the big guys we should tap into. It's a very simple marketing decision, or was there, you reckon there would have been a 2-1?
Oh, look, I think to answer that question, it's the natural evolution of how we market and promote our sport.
Right.
And unashamedly, there are two great sides that go out to battle, and all of us will have someone who we're barracking for, and we hope who wins and loses. And sport is based on heroes and villains, but it takes two sides to create a great contest, and we should be making sure we celebrate and acknowledge both sides and the power and respect and the brand size of both sides. So I think that's part of cricket's evolution, is to make sure that we're just not marketing ourselves in a one-way street, that we understand there's a big, broad audience, and we want to make sure we give everyone the opportunity to do that. And I'm more than comfortable if we continue that. I've got great experiences over the last couple of years being at some of these games, and you could almost feel like you're in any part of the world at a particular moment in time, whether you're at the MCG or you're in Mumbai. Some of those things feel the same. And I think that's all credit to the way we promote and market the game.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Rex from Sri Lanka, and then Watkal.
Todd, Sri Lanka A-team will be playing in the top end shortly. It's a place where we've had test match cricket sometime back in 2004. Sri Lanka played 2 tests in Cairns and Darwin. It seems like quietly you guys are returning to that part of the country. If you can talk about the thinking behind taking cricket back to places like Cairns and Darwin.
Yeah, a couple of points here. One is that I've got to make sure that cricket's not just seen as a sport that we play in December and January here in this country. We want to make sure that we utilise the other months. And in that part of Australia at that time of the year, the weather and the wickets, I think, will be very conducive to good cricket. So it makes sense for us to try to utilise some of those markets where we can. And also, I think the concept of the A-tour provides great development and learning for both our players and the Sri Lankan players. So it's an important exercise. It's an investment in the pathway in a lot of ways, but a great opportunity to take that into some of those lesser-known markets. And as I said, I think the weather will be conducive to really good cricket. And again, it's us being innovative in trying to evolve the sport so that we can do some things that are slightly different than maybe we've done over the previous generation.
Thanks, Todd.
What
Thanks, Ibrahim. Hi, Todd. First of all, congratulations on your appointment as the CEO of Cricket Australia.
Thank you.
Todd, we all know that Cricket Australia has an anti-racism code in place, but however, during the last two series that India played in Australia, there were incidents where both players and fans were subject to racial abuse. In 2021, Indian bowler Mohammad Siraj was targeted during the SCG test, and more recently during the Border Gavaskar Trophy. Similar incident occurred at the very famous Beer 13 at the MCG, where Indian fans were targeted by spectators. So as the new CEO of Cricket Australia, how seriously do you view these incidents, and what steps Cricket Australia will take to address them? What's your message?
Well, my message is a simple one, that everyone should feel welcome and safe in any format of our game here in this country. And if there are any of those types of behaviours, we will have a zero tolerance to the way people behave if they're behaving poorly in some of those areas. As I said, I want our Indian fans, in fact, I want any of our fans, whether they're English fans this year for the Ashes or Indian fans when they're coming to a Border Gavaskar series, to feel welcome. To be able to barrack for their team, but not to be abused at all. And anyone who is abusing others will be removed from our stadiums. And we will continue to do as much work and education with our fans as possible. We're also conscious that from time to time, people will do the wrong thing. We won't excuse that behaviour. They will remove them from our audiences, because it should be a real privilege to buy a ticket and come to watch the cricket. It's not a right. So if you don't behave in the ways that we expect, then you won't be welcomed. But we want to make sure Indian players and fans feel very welcome and very safe at every single one of our venues.
Thanks. Shruti and Niharika has another question. Shruti, you can go first, and then Niharika, please.
Yeah. Hello again, Todd. My question is about the WBBL and BBL. We've seen we've seen all the big Indian women's players playing in the WBBL, like take a Smriti Mandhana or a Jemima Rodriguez. Are there talks with the BCCI, or are you planning to speak to the BCI about getting in like India men's players, to play the BBL at least for a certain period? Or like for instance, I think Dinesh Karthik recently played the SA20, or get at least the retired players to play in the BBL at any point, the men's BBL.
We would love to welcome some Indian players to the BBL. That would be fantastic. That's certainly some conversations that we will continue to have with the BCCI. I mean, I would love to see Virat Kohli playing in the BBL this year. That would certainly create some interesting crowds and ratings, I'm sure. But at the moment, that's not happening. But we do harbour ambitions to do those types of things. And as you're seeing all over the world, T20 leagues are going down a lot of the private investment opportunities. We're seeing that in England recently with the 100. A number of the IPL franchises are now taking ownership stakes in the 100. So we've got to, again, it goes to the same message I've been talking about. We've got to continue to evolve and innovate the way we run our business here in Australia, and making sure that we have an open mind to new things. But the short answer to that question is, if we could find opportunities for Indian cricketers, either retired, recently retired, or current players to play in the BBL, they'd be very welcome. And it's a conversation we'll continue to have.
Thank you, Todd.
Niharika?
Hello again, Todd. My question to you is regarding the A-tours. Like last year, we saw the India women's A team come to Australia for a multi-format series. This year, we are seeing the men's A team. They are coming to India for another A series. And before pandemic, we saw that a lot of India and Australian teams had the A series going on. So just want to know your view on restarting these A teams, and what had been the discussions been with the BCCI in terms of getting these A tours on, considering that the international schedule is now more crammed than ever for both men's and women's international games?
Yeah, it's another good question, and it's hard to find the balance, because the A tours are very important. Everybody saw the way that our Australian men's team played in Sri Lanka earlier this year when we won that series. But what people don't see is the amount of time that a lot of our players have spent playing there, touring there in A-Series games and others in order to then, once they get their opportunity at the highest level, to succeed. So the A-Series games are a very important part of the development of our players, very important long-term play. It's a significant investment from countries to play A-Series cricket because, ultimately you're not generating the revenues like you would in normal Test cricket, but they are very important. And I get a sense that we'll continue to talk to our counterparts in other countries about how we find meaningful parts of the schedule to put those players, to give them chances to play in different conditions, and particularly younger players who will come through our systems. We want to make sure they've had opportunities to play in the subcontinent and other parts of the world, so when they do get the opportunity to play for their country, they're ready and they've been developed to a point where they can succeed.
Last two before we wrap up, Purnima and then Suhail Imran.
Thank you, Brian. Hi, Todd. Sorry, I had internet trouble earlier. My question is regarding the scheduling, or rather the stretched out schedule that Australia have now as a result of ICC defining, 3 separate windows for the 3 big leagues in the women's cricket that we have in WPL, WBBL, and the 100. And as a result of which, the women's cricket calendar has been sort of stretched out to March, as we've seen with the India Women's Tour. Did you see it as a challenge or an opportunity? I heard you mention about, cricket in Australia not being restricted to just the 2 months. But in terms of logistics, in terms of player workload management, in terms of revenues and investments, was it a bit of a challenge or an opportunity, like you mentioned earlier?
Well, I think it's a bit of both, Panema. I think it is a challenge because, our players can't play every day of every week of the year. They need rest and recovery periods as well. And so we have to be respectful of their opportunities to play in some of those leagues, and then when they are playing for their country, to maximise the time that they have with us. So I think it is a challenge. And I think in the women's part of cricket, we need to dare to do some things that are a bit different to what men's cricket's done over 100 years. So it's okay to be different. It's okay to challenge. It's okay to do things differently. And I don't want to see women's cricket just simply follow what men's cricket has done over 100 years. I'd like to see women's cricket break down some other barriers and do some things differently for cricket. And that might upset some people, but I do think that's the opportunity that you're referencing, because, playing cricket at different parts of the year might be a very strong strategic challenge for us. It might really help with our participation base. It might help us attract more younger boys and girls to play the game if they can see their stars play at alternate times of the year. So I think it's a significant challenge, but I genuinely can see the opportunity that's available to us if we can achieve what I think we can.
Thanks. Suhail Imran, you can ask the question, and then Sriram will come to you before concluding the session.
Thank you, Ibrahim. So, Todd, I have 2 questions. First question is about Pakistan and Australia bilateral series. What are the prospects for the next bilateral series between Pakistan and Australia, particularly in white ball and all formats? And my second question about BBL players, BBL, how you can find the way for the more engagement for the Pakistani cricketer, because they have so much fan following in Pakistani community in Australia, but Pakistani cricketer in previous editions facing the NOC from Pakistan Cricket Board. But how Cricket Australia find the way that maximum Pakistani players should play in the BBL?
Yeah, they're both important topics. I know we're touring Pakistan next year for some white ball cricket, which I think will be great. And, very important part of our schedule will be our relationship with Pakistan to play both red ball and white ball cricket. So where we can find opportunities to do that, we certainly will. And we understand the commitment and the desire to play in Pakistan as well. Best evidenced by, I think it was 2022 when we returned there for the first time in a long time. And the welcome and the sentiment there was quite amazing for Australian players. So the more of that, the better. But ultimately, the second part of your question about attracting Pakistan players to play in the BBL, again, we would welcome that. I'm hoping that in time we will just attract the very best players, irrelevant of where they come from, to play in the BBL. And, you know, your reference point about them being very popular and have strong followings is exactly right. If we can attract some high-profile Pakistan players to enjoy themselves and be in Australia over summer and play in a BBL team, that will be only good for the league and it'll be great for their team and their franchise. So we would welcome those opportunities. I know there are some conversations live happening right at this very moment about trying to attract some players. So hopefully that comes off for this coming BBL.
Thanks, Todd. Just the last question before we conclude the session. Viraji, you can ask your question.
Yeah, thanks. Todd, I just wanted to ask, like, as my journalism colleagues from Sri Lanka, Rex and Sohail from Pakistan have talked about the huge support of the respective communities. And it's same case with India as well. So one thing is tapping the players and stuff. But since we have seen the Yorkshire scandal happen in England, what is in your new role, what you intend to, how to tap the second generation Pakistanis, Indian, Sri Lankans, for them, the pathway for them to aspire to play cricket, not just consume as a spectator, but start playing more. We have a case of Usman Khawaja and stuff, but it's still not large. I would assume there'll be lots more people who want to play. So what is the challenges that you face in making them play? How are you going to target? And second part is like same thing, going back to England. If you remember in the 90s, there was this famous Lord Debit test, right? As a second gen, third gen, who are you supporting? And that was a controversial stuff, but in essence, you could understand. As in, what's your personal opinion, like a second gen Indian or second gen Sri Lankan in Australia? Who would you like them to support? Or are you okay if, as long as the parents contributing academically to Australia, you're fine? If they culturally they still want to identify with their respective sporting nations, how do you see it in 2025? And of course, the primary part is the pathway for young players, Asian players, if I can put it, for them to play to Australia.
That is a great question. I tell you what, I've done a lot of media interviews in my first few months, but this little press conference over this Zoom call is probably one of my favourites. So thank you for the question. Let me answer it in a couple of ways. First of all, in relation to participation, I agree we've still got a lot of work to do, and we would like to be attracting more of those communities to be playing cricket, but part of that challenge is on us in how we offer participation. I think our participation offerings in this country are very traditional, and they have historically been offered in the same way to the same types of people over generations. And if we're going to attract a new generation of participants, then we need to do things differently, and we need to think differently. We need to communicate differently, and we need to make sure that the clubs and our environments are both safe and welcoming and inclusive. And I know our participation network and the leads of our participation base here in this country are thinking about those things as we speak, and they're trying to make sure that we have a welcoming and offering that will allow everyone to feel welcome to come and play cricket, whether you're a boy or girl, male or female, Indian, Pakistani, wherever you're from, that there's an opportunity for you to play. So I think there's real opportunity for us to do better in that regard. The second part of your question is an interesting one, because I think if you're second, third, fourth, fifth generation, wherever you come from, if that's the team that you support, we should encourage you to support that, because ultimately everyone must come from somewhere, and we should all be really proud of where we come from. And in a country like Australia, with our beautiful multicultural base, we should all be very proud of the different styles, people, genders, races and religions, and where people come from. And if people choose to support where they came from, we should encourage that. Equally, if someone's been here and is next, third generation and wants to support the country of which they live, we should be equally supportive of that as well. But we shouldn't judge people on the decisions we make. We should only make them feel included, proud, and a part of the sport. And that's the most important part. Cricket must be a sport for all that's inclusive, and people should feel safe and they should feel welcome to barrack for whoever and whenever they like, and we should support their choice.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, Todd, again for joining us. Thanks everyone for coming on this short notice. We'll share the recording as soon as possible, and yeah, stay in touch. We'll share with you. Thank you so much, everyone.